In this video, we're going to be looking at how to solve a linear equation, and this will be at the 6th grade level. So it'll be pretty basic. First of all, an equation is simply a statement that two expressions are equal. And we're going to be looking at what they call linear equations or first degree equations. That is, the exponent on the letter or the variable are all going to be 1. So anytime you see a variable, when we're looking at these types of problems, it will always be understood that the coefficient in front, if there's no number there, it's always 1. If there's no exponent there, it's understood to be 1. We don't put them in there. Now if it's something else, like an x squared or an x cubed, we put it in there. Or if this is something else other than 3, we put it in there. Otherwise, x is understood to be 1x to the first power. Now, to solve an equation simply means to find the number or numbers that make the equation true. And in general, an equation can have either no solution, it can have one or more. It's just going to depend on the exponent. So typically, if it's a linear equation or first degree equation, you expect to have one solution. So again, when you see the variable, it means a number, it represents a number. So to solve an equation, it means find the number that makes this statement true. So we have x minus 8 is equal to 10. What is x? Now some of these you might be able to figure out. If you haven't done any of these types before, then it might be difficult, but we're just saying x is a number. What number minus 8 gives you 10? Well, it looks like if x is 18, 18 minus 8 is 10. So some of these you should be able to do it in your head, but we're going to go through the steps. 18 minus 8 does give you 10. But here's what we're going to do. Here are the steps that we want to do, because they're going to get more complicated than the ones I'm going to go over here. So the object is to isolate the variable. So in other words, we want the x all by itself on either the left side or the right side. So here's what we do. We can add the same number to both sides and we still have equality. We can subtract the same number from both sides, we still have equality. We can divide both sides by the same number, as long as we don't divide by 0, we still have equality. Or we can multiply both sides by the same number. We don't want to multiply by 0 though. So here's what we do. How do we get rid of this minus 8 here? Well, let's add the opposite. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing the opposite. Subtract 8. I'm going to put just 8 here, but keep in mind I'm adding it here. Whatever I add to one side, I have to add to the other side. So minus 8 and a plus 8, they go to 0. So we get x is equal to 10 and 8. These cancel out. 10 and 8 is 18. X is equal to 18. That's the answer. That's the number you have to replace that x by to get 10 on the other side. Now suppose I make this a plus here instead of a minus. Suppose it was written x plus 8. Now it's asking x plus 8. Okay, so that means what number plus 8 gives me 10? So you can say, well, 2 and 8 is 10, so x must be 2. So now what we do, to use the same procedure, how do we get rid of this plus 8? We're adding 8, let's subtract 8, which is the same thing as adding negative 8. So with negative 8 to both sides, that cancels this. Again, the objective here is to get the variable by itself. So x, this cancels out, so on the left side I'm left with x. On the right side, you got to know your operations with sign numbers. Positive 10 and a negative 8, signs are different, so we subtract 8 from 10, take the sign of the larger number. So this is going to be 2. In this case, then, I change it like that, now x is equal to 2. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, we want to solve x plus 3 is equal to negative 2. So it's asking, what number plus 3 gives me negative 2? Now if you can't figure it out, let's go through the steps. We want to isolate the variable. Now sometimes you're going to have terms to combine on the left side and terms to combine on the right side. In other words, if this were, say, if I had this, on this side, say I had a 8, then before you do anything, you combine these two and make this an 18. But if you can't combine anything, you just leave it the way it is. So in this one here, I got x plus 3. Can't combine those. On the right side, I have negative 2 by itself. So now I want to find x. So let's get rid of this plus 3. How do I get rid of this 3 here? Well, this is add 3, let's subtract 3. We do the opposite operation. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. So here, 3 and a negative 3, they're opposite, so those cancel, they go to 0. So on the left side, I get x. Now, look at this as addition with the same sign, a negative and a negative. When the signs are the same, you bring down the sign, add the numbers. 2 and 3 is 5. X is equal to a negative 5. And you can see, you can check it here. A negative, always go back to the original equation. So you got x plus 3 is equal to negative 2, and x is, okay, put negative 5 there. Negative 5 and 3. Negative 5 and a positive 3. Signs are different, so subtract 3 from the 5 and take the sign of the 5. That's the larger absolute value. I get x equal to negative 5. This is your solution for that one. Now this is times now. When it's like this, it means 2 times some number. X is the number. 2 times the number is equal to 20. What is that number? What is x? Okay, so again, some of these you can figure in your head without going through the steps. So what's okay? 2 times what will give me 20? Well, 2 times 10. So I get x equal to 10. Now, if you don't see it, go through the steps. The object is to get the x by itself. So in other words, I want a 1x here, or x by itself. So how to get rid of that 2? Well, it's 2 times. Opposite of multiplication is division. So let's divide this side by 2. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. Divide this by 2. Okay, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So these cancel out. I get 1x, but remember 1x is the same thing as just plain old x. So I put x. And then 20 divided by 2. 2 goes into 20 10 times. So of course, that's what we said, x is equal to 10. 10 times 2, go to the original equation. 2x equal to 20. 10 times 2 is 20. Checks. Now let's look at number 4 here. I have x over 5 is equal to 10. So basically this is saying x divided by 5 is equal to 10. So what is x? Can you figure it out? What number divided by 5 is 10? Now if you don't see it, then go ahead and make this a plain old x. It's x over 5, so we just want x. So how do we get rid of that 5? Well, we can do this. Remember, do the opposite operation. This is division, so let's multiply by 5. Got to do it to both sides, so multiply both sides by 5. So this cancels out, see, right here. Those divide out. That gives me plain old x. And then 10 times 5 is 50. That's the number we wanted. That's the solution of the equation. That's the number that makes that statement true. Notice 50 over 5, 50 divided by 5 is 10. That checks. Now, let's look at one like this. A little bit more complicated now. We have solve 2x plus 3 is equal to negative 5. So now it's asking 2 times a number. X is the number we're looking for. 2 times a number. Add 3 to that product. You get negative 5. What's the number? So again, here what we're going to do is we're going to get, the object is to get the x, or the term with the x. So in this case, the 2x, we want this by itself. So let's get rid of this 3 first. It's a plus 3, so let's add a negative 3 to this side. And then we have to do the same thing to the other side. So now, 3 and negative 3, those are opposites. Those cancel. So on the left side, I'm left with 2x. Those cancel here, and then a negative 5 and a negative 3. When the signs are the same, you got to know your signs for your rules for sign numbers. Negative 5 and a negative 3, bring down the sign, add the numbers. 5 and 3 is 8. So this is equal to negative 8. Now it looks like the other ones that we did earlier. 2 times x is equal to negative 8. We're still looking for x. We don't have x yet because we have this number here. So it's 2 times x. Let's do the opposite. Let's divide 2 by 2. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. So now these divide out. And that just gives me 1x, or just plain x. Okay, so here you're going to know your rules for sign numbers. This is a negative 8 and a positive 2. So a negative divided by a positive will give you a negative. Opposite signs are going to come out negative. They're the same sign, it comes out positive. Same thing with multiplication. And then 8 divided by 2 is 4. So the answer should be negative 4. Okay, now let's check it. So let's bring this equation we started off with. So it's 2, we'll make sure we have the right answer, 2 times x, so I'm going to put parentheses, and now the x, I'm going to replace it by what I got, negative 4. So that's negative 4, and then plus 3, and remember that's supposed to give me negative 5, because that's what I have on the right side. So 2 times a negative 4, positive times a negative, to negative, and the 2 times 4 is 8, and then it's plus 3. Just follow the rules for sign numbers. I got a negative and a positive. Signs are different, so I subtract the 3 from the 8, I get 5, and take the sign of the larger absolute value, which is the 8. When I say larger absolute value, I'm talking about the distance from 0. Negative 8 is further to the negative side than 3 is to the positive side. So this comes out to a negative 5. This is just your check, just to make sure, but this is the solution here. This is just checking it. Let's clear this, and let's go to the next one. Again, a little bit more complicated, but I have a negative 5 times some number, and then you add 18, I'm supposed to get a negative 2. See, there's not that obvious as to what the number is. So what we'll do here is say, well, let's get rid of the 18. So let's add negative 18 to this. That's legal. And the reason I'm doing adding negative 18, because negative 18 and a plus 18 will cancel, and that's what I want. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do it to the other side. So on this side, I have to add negative 18. Okay, so now I have what? These go to 0. I get negative 5x on this side, and a negative 2 and a negative 18. The signs are the same. So I add. Remember, when the signs are the same, you just add and bring down the sign. So 2 and 18 is 20, bring down the sign. So that's giving negative 20. Now again, I'm almost there. I don't want this negative 5 here. I want just plain old x. So the way we get rid of it, if it's multiplication, do the opposite. Let's divide negative by negative 5. Whatever you do to one side, do to the other side. Negative 5 divided by negative 5, this gives me 1, or 1x. But 1x is the same thing as x, so just put x. Now on the right side, I'm dividing. Negative divided by negative, the signs are the same, so it'll be positive. So you just look at 20 divided by 5, that's 4. There it is. Let's check it. Now if your teacher doesn't ask you to check it, that's fine. But if you want to make sure that it's correct, just come up here and say, okay, negative 5 times some number plus 18 is supposed to give me negative 2. Whatever's on the other side. Okay, so put a 4 right there. 4 times a negative 5. It's a positive times a negative, so the answer will be negative. And then 4 times 5 is 20, so this is negative 20. Plus 18. Now we just add. So negative and a positive. Adding two numbers with different signs. Subtract and take the sign of the larger absolute value. Again, negative 20 is further away from 0 or further to the negative direction. So it's going to overtake this positive. And so 18 from 20 is 2. Take the sign of the larger one, 20, larger than 18. And I get negative 2. Checks. But the solution is x equal to 4. This is just checking it. Sometimes the teachers will say you don't have to check it, just make sure you do the steps correctly. You follow whatever rules you're given. Okay, same thing here. And notice, this one has an x on one side and an x on the other side, 3x and a negative 2x. So we're going to do the same thing. You always want to have just one term with an x on one side. So it doesn't matter which side, but what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say, okay, let's get rid of this minus 2x by adding the opposite. That's what you do when you have to cancel through addition or subtraction. You do the opposite operation. If it's multiplication or division, again, you work with the opposite of those. Division is the opposite of multiplication. Multiplication is the opposite of division. So add 2x here and 2x here. See, minus 2x and 2x go to 0. So on this side I have 3x and 2x, that's 5x. And then I just carry through, write the rest of the equation. So it's 5x then minus 7 is equal to 3. So all we're doing is making it more simpler. It's looking more like, say, this one here. See now, there's only one x on one side, or one term with an x on the left side. But we still want to get rid of, now we want to isolate this. So let's add minus 7 there, so let's set the opposite, 7. So that this then cancels, see, that cancels. I get 5x on the left side, and 3 and 7 is 10. Now you have a simple equation. Look, 5 times what number? 5 times x equals 10. Okay, so what is x? 5 times what number is equal to 10? Well, you should be able to see there that 5 times 2 is 10. So the answer is 2. But if we use the procedure, let's make this 5 1, so divide by 5. Whatever we do to one side, we do the other side. Divide by 5 here. Those divide out. 10 divided by 5 is 2. This is your solution. That's your solution. X equal to 2. But let's check it. If teacher doesn't tell you, and you don't have time to check it, that's fine. You first get the answers as many as you can, and then if you have time, you can go back and double check. But let's do this. X is equal to 2. So let's put a 2 where the x is. A 2. See, this one has x on both sides, so we have to do both sides. So here you have 2 times 3. So we have to get the same thing on both sides of the equation. Otherwise, we made a mistake, and this is not going to be a solution. But here we go. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 minus 7 is negative 1. Okay, 6 subtract 7. That's the same thing as 6 and negative 7, remember. 6 subtract 7 is the same thing as 6 add a negative 7. So you subtract 6 from 7 to get the sign of the larger absolute values, that's negative. And then on this side, again, we're putting a 2 here. So 2 times a negative 2 is a negative 4, and then it's plus 3. Again, you have a negative and a positive, so you subtract 3 from 4, take the sign of the large absolute value, and this is negative 1. So it checks. But this is your solution, right here. Okay, more to come. If you have any comments, just put those on the description. And we'll continue with a little bit more complicated linear equations coming up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.